Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. We are here for the lecture which is on Introduction to Recombinant DNA Technology. In this lecture we will discuss about the introduction and background of recombinant DNA technology. We will also discuss its basics and discovery, the role of DNA technology in biotechnology, its basic principle and the tools of recombinant DNA technology. Some methods will also be discussed which we use in the gene transfer, gene cloning strategies, and its applications. We know that DNA is the genetic material of most organisms. It serves as a bank of genetic information and ultimately gives the chemical basis of life and heredity. It is organized into genes that control each and every cellular function and ultimately the whole living system. It is composed of repeating units of deoxyribonucleotides which are arranged in a double helix and held by the hydrogen bonds. Almost all the living organisms, ranging from unicellular bacteria to multicellular eukaryotic cells. For example, here you can see the figure of a bacterium. In a bacteria, DNA is present in the form of chromosomes and the plasmids. Most bacteria have one circular DNA chromosome ranging in the size from 1000 to 8000 kilobase pairs, while the extra chromosomal genetic element in the form of plasmid are made of a circular DNA molecules. The collection of all the genes which are present in the form of chromosome or in the form of in the form of plasmid. They are collectively known as bacterial genome. The DNA is composed of nucleotides, which means that nucleotides are the building blocks of DNA. These nucleotides are made up of three elements, which are sugar, phosphate group, and one nitrogenous base. These nitrogenous bases are adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine, and grouped as purines and pyrimidines. So adenine and guanine are categorized as purines, while cytosine and thymine are grouped under the pyrimidines. So nucleotides are formed by the combination of a sugar molecule, a phosphate group, and one nitrogenous base. And many nucleotides are present, are formed, form the DNA structure. The DNA or the deoxyribonucleic acid is a long double-stranded chain of nucleotide, and it follows the model of a complementary basis. For example, adenine always pairs with the thymine, and cytosine always pair with the guanine. There's no exception that adenine can combine with the or make a bond with the guanine. This is opposite or against the rule of complementary bases. So adenine is specific for thymine and thymine is specific for adenine. In the same way, guanine is specifically pairs with the cytosine and cytosine always pairs with the guanine. The two strands of the DNA are in an anti-parallel configuration. The two complementary DNA strands will separate when heated and with spontaneous pair together again when they cooled. Here you can see the structure of a DNA, which is a double-stranded, and the bases or nucleotides follow the rule of complementary. The two DNA strands separates while they get heat and again hybridize when they cool down. The concept of recombinant DNA technology lies under the umbrella of new or modern biotechnology, which is a newly discovered discipline. Basically, the term biotechnology represents a fusion or an alliance between the biology and technology. So, biotechnology is a newly discovered discipline for old age practices, for example, the preparation of wine, beer, curd, and bread. So, these natural processes are regarded as old or the traditional biotechnology. Somehow, the new or modern biotechnology embraces all the genetic manipulations, cell fusion techniques, and improvements which are made in the old biotechnological processes. In the same way, genetic engineering primarily involves the manipulation of genetic material, for example, the manipulation of DNA, which is used to achieve the desired goal. Some other terms can also be used for genetic engineering, and these terms are genetic manipulation, recombinant DNA technology, gene cloning, genetic modification, and new genetics. So, what is recombinant DNA technology? In general, when we talk about the recombinant DNA, it means that the DNA having a foreign DNA in its um, structure, which is quite different from the natural DNA makeup or structure, and this is achieved by the insertion of a gene of our interest into a vector, which is a DNA molecule which accept the foreign gene fragment. When this vector is introduced into the host cell, this recombinant DNA replicates over there and provides a code for the desired protein synthesis. So the recombinant DNA is a DNA molecule which is formed by the laboratory methods of genetic recombination, which bring different genetic material from multiple sources together and creating sequence that would not otherwise be found in the genome. For example, the DNA from an animal gene may be recombined with the DNA from a bacterium. So recombinant DNA is also known as chimeric DNA or the hybrid DNA. After the discovery of DNA structure by Watson and Crick in 1953 and the isolation of DNA ligase in 1967, scientist Paul Berg generated the recombinant DNA technology concept in 1972. But the modern or present DNA technology has its roots in the experiment performed by the Boyer and Cohen in 1973. They produced first plasmid vector which is capable of being replicated within the bacterial host. In their experiment, they successfully recombined two plasmids and cloned the new plasmid in E. coli. In the sequence, in another experiment, the genes of a frog could be successfully transplanted and expressed in the E. coli. So this made the real beginning of modern recombinant DNA technology and laid foundation for the present day molecular biotechnology. Recombinant DNA technology is a vast field and have a diversified type of applications in the field of biotechnology. But in general, this technology address the three major goals. The first one is to eliminate the undesirable phenotypic traits of a DNA material. And Second is to get the beneficial traits uh, after combining the two or more organisms' genetic material to create the organism that synthesize products of human needs. There are many diverse and complex techniques which may be involved in the gene manipulation. However, the basic principle of recombinant DNA technology are reasonably simple and broadly involve the following stages. For example, the first step is the generation of a DNA fragment of our desired characteristics, then the selection of a desired piece of DNA, for example, a gene from the human source. After the generation of a DNA fragment, it is inserted into the cloning vector. For example, it can be inserted into a plasmid to create a recombinant DNA or the chimeric DNA. After this step, this recombinant DNA is introduced into the host cell, for example, in the bacteria. After the introduction of vector into the host cell, here it can multiply and the selection of the clones containing the recombinant molecule is done. So after the multiplication and selection, the expression of the gene to produce the desired product are the simple basic steps, or you can say it is the basic principle of our recombinant DNA technology. Here you can see the basic principle of recombinant DNA technology in this figure. Both the donor DNA and the vector DNA, which is a plasmid DNA, are digested with the help of restriction endonucleases, which are the enzymes or the restriction enzymes. So the purpose to the purpose for the digestion of a donor DNA is to get the desired DNA piece, while the purpose for the digestion of a plasmid DNA is so that the desired DNA piece can get incorporated into this plasmid. Now, the next step is the ligation. When the plasmid is digested and the circular DNA is opened, the desired piece of DNA get incorporated into the genetic material of a plasmid. DNA ligase is the enzyme which is responsible to seal or make the recombinant DNA in the form of a circular plasmid again, but having different characteristics. So this is called a recombinant DNA. And this recombinant DNA is introduced in the host cell, for example, into the bacterium. In this bacterium, the recombinant DNA is multiplied and the multiplication selection of the colon is identified. So in this bacterium, the recombinant DNA is expressed to form the desired protein. So this recombinant DNA encodes the protein synthesis. So these proteins are required proteins, or the proteins having the characteristics of our own requirement. In this lecture, we will discuss the recombinant DNA technology with special reference to the following aspects. The first one is molecular tools of the genetic engineer. We will also discuss some characteristics of the host cell, which are the factories of the cloning, some vector cloning, some vectors, which are the cloning vehicles, which contains the DNA of our interest, some methods for the gene transfer, and finally the gene cloning strategies. So first of all, we are going to discuss briefly about the tools of recombinant DNA technology. The first one is mutagens. So mutagens are the physical or chemical agents that produce mutations. Scientists utilize mutagens to create changes in the microbes' uh, genomes, to change phenotypes, select for and culture cells with beneficial characteristics. Then the mutated genes alone can be isolated. Another important tool for the recombinant DNA technology are the enzymes. A number of specific enzymes are utilized to achieve the objective of recombinant DNA technology. These includes restriction endonucleases, exonucleases, DNA ligases, DNA polymerases. Restriction enzymes or restriction endonucleases are one of the most important groups of the enzymes for the manipulation of DNA. These are the bacterial enzymes basically that can cut or split the DNA from any source at specific sites. Or you can say these can cut the DNA molecule only at restriction sites, which are specific restriction sites. So these enzymes can cleave the sugar phosphate backbone of the DNA strand and categorized into two groups based on the type of the cut. The first one is the group of restriction enzyme which cuts the DNA with sticky ends, and the next group is which cuts with the blunt ends. In this figure is the overview of action of restriction enzymes. In A part, some restriction enzymes sense a sequence which is known as restriction site and form a sticky end of a double-stranded DNA. In B, the restriction fragment of the two different organisms which are cut by the same restriction enzyme can ligate with the help of an enzyme ligase and form the recombinant DNA molecule. In C part, you can see the restriction enzyme cuts the DNA and form a blunt end. Means there is no sticky end, but the cut is on the blunt end. In D part, using the restriction fragment from two different species but have cut, cut by the same restriction enzyme can ligate with the help of a ligase enzyme and form a recombinant DNA molecule. So both the DNA having the sticky ends or the blunt ends can form a recombinant DNA molecule, but most commonly the DNA which have a sticky end can form a recombinant, or more oftenly used for the recombinant DNA synthesis. If we talk about the origin and function of the restriction enzymes, the restriction enzymes are basically derived from the bacterial origin and named after the organism from which they were derived. For example, EcoR1 is a restriction enzyme and derived from the Escherichia coli. BAMH1 is derived from the Bacillus species, Bacillus amyloliquefaciens. The presence of restriction enzyme was first of all reported by the scientist Arber in the year 1962. Another important breakthrough was the discovery of restriction enzyme HIN2 in 1970 by another scientist, Kelly Smith and Nathan was brought. In 1978, the Nobel Prize for the Physiology and Medicine was given to the scientist for the discovery of endonucleases. They were first discovered in E. coli, restricting the replication of the bacteriophage by cutting the viral DNA. So the host E. coli DNA is protected from the cleavage by the addition of methyl group. Thus, the enzymes that restrict the viral replication are known as restriction enzymes. Over 200 enzymes uh, are identified, and many are available commercially from the biotechnology companies. There are two types of the restriction enzymes. The first one is which cut the DNA on both strands but at a non-specific location at varying distances from the particular sequences that are recognized by the restriction enzyme. Therefore, random imprecise cuts, so these are not very useful for the recombinant DNA applications. The second group of the restriction enzyme can cut both the strands of the DNA within a particular sequence, which is recognized by the restriction enzyme and widely used for the molecular biology procedures, because uh, these types of the enzymes use symmetrical DNA sequences. So they read the same in the 5 to 3' direction on both strands. Some enzymes generate blunt ends cut in the middle. Others generate sticky ends, which are known as staggered cuts. So hydrogen bonding, possibly with the complementary tails. So DNA ligase covalently link the two fragments together by forming the phosphodiester bonds of the phosphate sugar backbone. So what is recognition sequence? So recognition sequence is the site where the DNA is cut by the restriction endonucleases. So restriction endonucleases can specifically recognize DNA with a particular sequence of 4 to 8 nucleotides and cleave it. So cleavage pattern for the majority of the restriction endonucleases is to cut the DNA at defined sites within the recognition sequence, which means specific endonucleases can cut a specific recognition sequence, which is of 4 to 8 nucleotides, and restriction enzymes have a capacity to sense or read that sequence and cleave it. Another class of enzyme which is important for the recombinant DNA technology is exonucleases. So exonucleases are the enzymes that remove nucleotides from the ends of the nucleic acid molecule. And exonuclease removes nucleotides from the 5' or the 3' end of the DNA molecule. It can never produce internal cuts in the DNA, which is common about the endonucleases. In recombinant DNA technology, various types of the exonucleases are employed. Uh, for example, exonuclease BAL31, E. coli exonuclease 3, lambda exonuclease, etc. Here you can see the action of the exonuclease, which cuts the DNA from the end in the direction of 5 to 5' to 5' or the 3'. Here in this figure. The next important enzyme category is DNA ligase. So the function of these enzymes is to join two fragments of the DNA by synthesizing the phosphodiester bond. Mostly the DNA ligases function uh, functions to repair the single-stranded nicks. Nicks means the gap which left uh, or during the replication. So DNA ligase repair the single-stranded nicks in the DNA double helix, and in recombinant DNA technology, they are employed for sealing the nicks between the adjacent nucleotides. So this enzyme is also termed as a molecular glue due to its functionality. Now, talking about the DNA polymerase. So these are the enzymes which synthesize a new complementary DNA strand of an existing DNA or RNA template. A few important types of DNA polymerases are used routinely in the genetic engineering. One important enzyme which is used routinely in the genetic engineering is DNA polymerase, which is prepared from the E. coli. Another type of DNA polymerase used in the genetic engineer is Taq DNA polymerase, and this type of polymerase is used in the PCR, which is the polymerase chain reaction, to amplify the DNA fragment or synthesizing a number of copies of the DNA fragment. Reverse transcriptase is also an important type of uh, polymerase enzyme, DNA polymerase enzyme, which is used for the genetic engineering. And reverse transcriptase uses RNA instead of DNA as a template for synthesizing a new DNA strand, which is called as cDNA or the complementary DNA. And its main use is in the formation of complementary DNA libraries. Apart from these above mentioned enzymes, a few other enzymes also uh, mark their importance in the genetic engineering. Now, the next important tool for the recombinant DNA technology is the host cell. So, host cells are basically the factories of cloning, and these are the living systems or the cells in which the carrier of the recombinant DNA molecule or the vector can be propagated or replicated. So there are different types of the host cells. For example, these can be prokaryotic cells or can also be the eukaryotic cells. Host cells, besides effectively incorporated the vector genetic material, must be conveniently cultivated in the laboratory to collect the product. Microorganisms are preferred as a host cell since they multiply faster as compared to the cells of the higher organisms, for example, plants and animal cells. Here are some characteristics of the prokaryotic cells. The first one is Escherichia coli, or in other words, E. coli, which is a bacterium and was first organism which is used in the DNA technology experiments and continue to be the host of choice of many workers or the researchers. But the major drawback using Escherichia coli as a host cell is it lacks or cannot perform the post translation modifications which are important for the DNA expression or the synthesis of proteins which are encoded by the recombinant DNA. The next prokaryotic host is Bacillus subtilis, so which is a rod-shaped non-pathogenic bacterium, and it has been used as a host in the industry for the production of enzymes, antibiotics, and insecticides, etc. But some workers consider Bacillus subtilis um, as an alternative to the E. coli. Eukaryotic cells can also act as a uh, host for the recombinant DNA technology. Many eukaryotic organisms are preferred to produce human proteins due to their complex structure, which are more suitable to synthesize the complex proteins. The most commonly used eukaryotic organism is the yeast, which is Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Despite the practical difficulties to work with and high cost factor, mammalian cells are also employed as the hosts. The advantage is that certain complex proteins which cannot be synthesized by the simple structured bacteria can be produced by the mammalian cell, for example, the tissue plasminogen activator. And this is mainly because the mammalian cells possesses the machinery to modify the proteins to the active form, which are the post-translational modifications, or which is due to the post-translational modifications. So vectors are the DNA molecules which can carry a foreign DNA fragment to be cloned. So they are self-replicating in an appropriate host cell. The most important vectors are the plasmid, bacteriophage, cosmids, and artificial chromosome vectors. Generally, the vectors should have some appropriate or useful properties. So these vectors should be small enough so that they can be easily manipulated in a lab. They have to survive, or they should survive inside the cell. They must contain some recognizable genetic markers which ensure the genetic expression of the gene. So these vectors include viral genomes, transposons, and plasmids. So in these, the transposons are the small DNA stretches or the fragments, while the genome and plasmids are the journal terms for the DNA material. As we know that genome is the total genetic material of the cell or the organism, while the plasmid is a double-stranded circular DNA which is present in the bacterium, but it is also a DNA molecule. There are several types of the vectors. These can be cosmids, plasmids, bacteriophage, and the artificial chromosome vectors. These vectors can accept the different sizes of DNA fragment as a recombinant stretches. The plasmid accept less than 10 kb of the DNA fragment. Bacteriophage can accept 9 to 15 kb of DNA fragment. Cosmids can accept a large stretch or fragment of the DNA up to 35 to 50 kb. So plasmids are the extra chromosomal double-stranded circular self-replicating DNA molecules. The word plasmid was first coined by the scientist Joshua Lederberg in 1952. He used these plasmids to describe any extra chromosomal hereditary element. So almost all the bacteria have plasmids, but the number of these plasmids vary in each and every bacteria. For example, some bacteria have a low copy number of plasmids. For example, they contain 1 to 4 copies of the plasmids in one cell, or they may be a high copy number. For example, they contain 10 to 100 plasmids per cell. So they are named as the high copy number. So the size of the plasmid varies from 1 to 500 kbs generally, usually which usually contributes about 0.5 to 5% of the total DNA of the bacteria in the form of plasmids. Bacteria and E. coli are used as the host cell for the plasmid vectors. Another important example of the plasmid cloning vector is PBR322. Here you can see the genetic makeup of a plasmid which contain EcoR1 restriction site, Hind3, BAMH1, and CEL1 origin of replication, and the ampicillin resistance gene. All these are the characteristics having the PBR322 cloning vector, which is a plasmid. The PBR322, the most common plasmid vector, has a DNA sequence of about 4,361 base pairs. It carries genes resistance for ampicillin and the tetracycline that serve as marker for the identification of clones carrying plasmids. The plasmids have unique recognition site for the action of restriction endonucleases, which are ECO1, HIND3, BAMH1, CEL, SETU, and the PSTLL. So, plasmid PBR322 have several restriction sites, recognition sites for several restriction endonucleases as well. Other cloning vectors are PUC19, which is about the size of 2686 base pair and have the ampicillin resistance gene, and the derivative of PBR322 are the PBR325, PBR328, and PBR329. And so these are the derivatives of the plasmid PBR322. Another important factor is bacteriophage. So bacteriophages are simply phages, are the virus that replicate within the bacteria. In case of certain phages, their DNA gets incorporated into the bacterial chromosome and remains there permanently. So phage vector can accept short fragment of DNA, foreign DNA, into their genome. There are few advantages for the usage of bacteriophage as a vector. So they can uptake a larger DNA fragment as compared to the plasmid. Hence, phage vectors are preferred for working with the genome of human cells. The most commonly used phages are bacteriophage 1 and bacteriophage M3, M13. Here is the overview of the formation of recombinant DNA and ultimately the library of the genomic DNA. And in this story, the bacteriophage is used as a vector having multiple recognition sites on which certain digestion restriction enzymes can be used to cut the stretches of DNA of various sizes, and these foreign stretches of DNA can be inserted into the bacteriophage, and this bacteriophage act as a vector and further subjected towards the living host cell and packaged into the phage and ultimately used to build the library of the genomic DNA. Cosmids are another vector. These are the hybrids of phages and plasmids and carry DNA fragments up to 45. So these are the vectors which accept the larger fragment among the other factors. For example, among the bacteriophage and the plasmids. Cosmids can accept or carry the larger fragments up to 45 kb, and they can replicate like plasmid but can be packaged like phage lambda. So cosmids can be used to build genomic libraries. For example, the example of cosmid vector is XPHV79. So there are some features, basic features of the plasmid, of the cosmid. They have a restriction site, they have an antibiotic gene, the origin of replication, cause sites provide the blunt ends, R for the recombinant site, EcoR1 and SAM1 are the restriction endonucleases recognition sequences. Again, here you can see the story of the recombinant DNA technology, the basic principle in which the cosmids can be used as the vector, and these vectors are further utilized to build the genomic library, which contain almost all the genes of uh, a DNA. Artificial chromosome vectors, in which human artificial chromosomes or hex are important vectors which are developed in 1970 and in 1997 by a scientist, Willard. Human artificial chromosome is a synthetically produced vector which possess the characteristics of human chromosome. They are considered as a self-replicating microchromosome with the size ranging from 1/10 to 1/5 of the human chromosome. The advantage with the HEC is that it can carry human genes that are too long, and it can carry the genes to be introduced into the cell in gene therapy in different diseases. The yeast artificial chromosome, another important vector, which is introduced in 1987 by the scientist Olson. So yeast artificial chromosome is also a synthetic DNA that can accept a large fragment of foreign DNA, particularly the DNA from the human origin. So it is thus possible to clone the large DNA pieces by using the yeast artificial chromosomes. Another important synthetic DNA chromosome is bacterial artificial chromosome. So the construction of the bacterial artificial chromosome is based on one F plasmid, which is larger than the other plasmids used as the clone vectors. So bacterial artificial chromosomes can accept DNA inserts of around 300 kb. So gene libraries can also act as an important tool for the recombinant DNA technology. So it is the collection of DNA fragments, especially or specifically genes from a particular species, which represents gene library. The creation or the construction of gene libraries, broadly genomic libraries, is accomplished by isolating the complete genome. For example, the entire DNA from the cell, which is cut into the fragments and cloned in the suitable vectors. Then the specific clone carrying the desired target DNA can be identified, isolated, and characterized. So in this manner, a library of the gene or the clones for the entire genome of the species can be constructed. So library may contain all the genes of a single chromosome. So it may also contain the set of complementary DNA to the messenger RNA. Now discussing about the methods of the gene transfer, there are several different methods by which foreign DNA can be introduced into the host cells efficiently. So these methods are transformation, conjugation, electroporation, liquefaction, non-bacterial transformation, or the direct transfer of the DNA into the host cell. The first one is transformation. So transformation is the method of introducing foreign DNA into the bacterial cell, for example, into the E. coli. The first step in the transformation is to select a piece of DNA to be inserted into the vector. The second step is to cut that piece of DNA with the restriction enzyme and then ligate the DNA insert into the vector with the DNA ligase. The insert contains a selectable marker which allows for the identification of recombinant DNA molecules. The vector is then inserted into a host cell in a process called transformation. The one example of the possible host cell is E. coli. The host cell must be specifically or specially prepared to take up the foreign DNA. So conjugation is a natural microbial recombination process. During this process, two living organisms, for example, two bacteria, a donor and the recipient, come together and joined by the cytoplasmic bridges and transfer single-stranded DNA from the donor to the recipient. So inside the recipient cell, the new DNA may integrate with the chromosome or may remain free, just like in case of plasmids. So the natural phenomena of the conjugation is exploited for the gene transfer. This is achieved by the transferring plasmid insert DNA from one cell to the another, and in general the plasmid lack conjugative function and therefore they are not as such capable of transferring DNA to the recipient cell. However, some plasmids with the conjugative properties can be prepared and used. Another method which can be employed for the transfer of gene in recombinant DNA technology is electroporation. So electroporation is based on the principle that high voltage electric pulses can induce cell plasma membrane to fuse. So thus electroporation is a technique which is involved involving the electric field mediated membrane permeabilization. Electric shocks can also be induced cellular uptake of exogenous or foreign DNA from the suspending solution. So the electroporation is a simple and rapid technique for introducing genes into the cell from various organisms such as plants, microorganisms, and animals. Liposomes are the circular lipid molecules which have an aqueous interior that can carry nucleic acids. Several techniques have been developed to encapsulate the DNA in liposomes, while the liposome mediated gene transfer is referred to as liposuction. On treatment of DNA fragment with liposome, the DNA pieces get encapsulated inside the liposome. So these liposomes can adhere to cell membrane and fuse with them to transfer the DNA fragments. Thus, the DNA enters the cell and then to the nucleus. The positively charged liposomes very efficiently complex with the DNA, binds to the cell and transfer DNA rapidly. The next is the direct transfer of the DNA, or in other words, it's a non-bacterial transformation. It is possible to directly transfer the DNA into the cell nucleus. So microinjection and particle bombardment are the two techniques which are commonly used for this purpose. The host cell are bombarded with the high velocity microprojectiles such as particles of the gold or tungsten that have been coated with the DNA, and ultimately the insertion of the DNA is achieved into the host. Once the recombinant DNA formed or synthesized, it is introduced in the host cell where it replicates and propagates. Now, how does the recombinant DNA works in the host cell? So, the recombinant DNA works when the host cell expresses proteins from the recombinant genes. A significant amount of recombinant protein will not be produced by the host unless expression factors are added. So protein expression depends upon the genes being surrounded by the collection of signals which provide the instruction for for the transcription and translation of the genes by the cell. So these signals include the promoters, the ribosome binding sites, and the terminators. In the presence of these signals, protein expresses efficiently in the host cell from the recombinant DNA. Now discussing the gene cloning strategies. A clone refers to a group of organisms, cells, molecules, or other objects which are arising from the single individual. Clone or colony are almost synonymous to each other. So gene cloning strategies in relation to recombinant DNA technology broadly involve the following aspects. The first one is generation of a desired DNA fragment, insertion of these fragments into the cloning vector, after the insertion, the introduction of vector into the host cell, and finally, after the introduction of vector into the host cell, the selection or the screening of the recipient cell for the recombinant DNA molecules. So these are the cloning strategies or the basic steps which are involved in the gene cloning process. Here you can see the overview of the cloning strategies in the recombinant DNA technology. So first of all, the first step is the generation of the DNA fragment by the action of restriction, endonucleases, digestion, complementary DNA synthesis, PCR, chemical synthesis, then the insertion of this DNA fragment into the cloning vector. This vector is further introduced into the host cell. These host cells um In these host cells, the recombinant DNA is propagated, transformation, transfection, and transduction processes are employed by the host cell. Uh, the next step is the selection or the screening of the host cell, either which type of host cell accept the recombinant DNA and which are not accepting the recombinant DNA. So screening is must. Hybridization, PCR, immunochemical methods, protein-protein interactions, and functional complementation are the processes which are used for the selection or screening of the cells, recombinant DNA. Now, here are some important applications of the recombinant DNA technology in several fields. For example, the recombinant DNA technology is important in the field of medical research for the diagnostic purpose, for the diagnosis of several diseases, for example, HIV, for the treatment of several diseases. In pharmacology, uh, it is important for the blood clotting factors. For example, it is used in the treatment of hemophilia, artificial insulin production, hepatitis B, B's treatment. In the field of agriculture technology, growing crops of our own choice, pesticide resistance crops, fruits with attractive colors, all being grown in the artificial conditions. So recombinant DNA technology is also important in the field of agriculture technology. So this technology is also important in the field of gene therapy, vaccination synthesis, blood clotting factor synthesis, in the food industry, and for the growth of fluorescent fishes and glowing plants. Here are some references which can be used for further studies. You can also consult these points or these topics from these books as well. Thank you so much, and Allah Hafiz.